I'm really excited about putting GitHub in your pocket, and also excited about the huge investments we're making across nearly every aspect of the daily experience, from GitHub Desktop to notifications to code search, code nav, code review. This is something we take really seriously. We know those little moments, those bits of friction, can really drag you down when you're experiencing them again and again and again. And so we'd love to hear your feedback, and we're going to keep making these types of investments. OK, now bringing it back to the heart of GitHub, the open source community. Last May, we introduced a new program called GitHub Sponsors in beta. And GitHub Sponsors allows you to financially support the developers whose work you admire or depend upon in the open source community. And so for an update on GitHub Sponsors, please welcome Devin Zugel. Devin?
Thanks, Nat. Hi, everyone. I'm Devin, the product manager of the open source economy team here at GitHub. We're building GitHub Sponsors because we envision a future where open source is a professional, lucrative career path. These developers maintain our critical digital infrastructure, which is only becoming ever more important every single day. Open source developers build the tools for the rest of us, so it's our job to build the tools that they need to succeed too. As a reminder, Sponsors is a new way to financially support the developers who build the open source software we all use every day. For example, I really admire Mariata's work on the Python core team, and I used to use Python at my old job. So now I can go to her profile, click the sponsor button, and show her my support. With GitHub Sponsors, developers can sponsor each other directly from their everyday workflows. When we launched the beta just a few months ago, we also announced the GitHub Sponsors Matching Fund. Doubling the contributions you make to open source developers jumpstarts the program. Meanwhile, this empowers you, the members of the community, to decide where the funding goes. Developers have already begun doing some amazing things with sponsors, and I've been really excited to see some of the great projects that have been in the program. I was personally thrilled when Daniel Stenberg joined Sponsors. He's the founder and lead maintainer of curl. With 10 billion installations worldwide, curl is one of the most widely used software components in the entire world. Like many developers, I've used curl for years, so it was so cool to see someone who I've depended on for a long time find my work useful too. I'm also learning about loads of cool projects that I had never heard about before. I recently stumbled across a profile for a guy named David who has this really cool project, and then in his profile he said that he's been coding with his voice for 5 years. And that blew my mind because I'm someone who really likes programming, and I also use voice to text all the time, but I had never thought to code with my voice. So I was really excited to check this project out. So we've heard a lot of great feedback from this project throughout this entire summer, and we have seen some amazing things that people have been doing. And it's been really exciting to see people be able to sponsor individual developers. We've also gotten a ton of great feedback. We've gotten feedback that teams want a way to sponsor their work as well. So starting today, teams can receive funding through GitHub Sponsors too. If your open source project has a corporate or nonprofit bank account, you can apply to receive funds as a team rather than just as an individual. We're thrilled to partner with amazing open source projects like Homebrew, NumFocus, Babel, the eBook Foundation, and many more as we kick off the beta, and we cannot wait for more to join. You'll see their sponsorships when you go to any of their team's projects or to their organization page. You'll see a sponsor button at the top of the page where you'll be able to see how to sponsor them, whether it's through GitHub Sponsors or through other awesome funding tools like Open Collective, Patreon, Tidelift, and Community Bridge. Project-level funding is the natural next step for GitHub Sponsors, and it gets to the core of what open source is all about. We're all standing on the shoulders of giants. With new features like Meet the Team, project-level funding reflects the deeply collaborative way open source is made. This is still just the beginning, and we are listening closely for more of your feedback. We're committed to helping the community fund developers who work in open source, and we're excited to keep building new ways to make that happen. So head to github.com/sponsors to get started. Thank you all, and thank you especially to the open source developers. You are the heart of the open source community, and we couldn't do any of this without you. Back to you, Nat.
All right. Thank you, Devin. We're really excited about sponsored projects, and I'm really proud of the work that we're doing at GitHub to try to help open source communities continue to thrive. Now, we've been talking this morning about the importance of open source, but to put it in context, and maybe a larger historical context, I wanted to tell you a short story. This is Florence in Italy, and this is the dome of the Florence Cathedral. It's the famous Duomo that was created at the height of the Italian Renaissance. And the story of how it was built is interesting. At the beginning of the 15th century, in 1418, the leaders of Florence set up a contest to find a builder who could create this beautiful dome. And at the time, no one knew how to construct a dome of this scale because no such dome had been created actually since the Roman Empire, since nearly 1,500 years earlier. That engineering knowledge that came from antiquity had been lost. But then a man who was named Filippo Brunelleschi, who lived in Florence and wanted to win the contest, took a trip to Rome. And he went there to study the Roman ruins and some of the ancient texts from Vitruvius and others to rediscover these ancient engineering techniques. And he learned from them, and he was inspired by them, and used what he learned in the construction of this beautiful cathedral. That ancient Roman knowledge that he was able to find in Rome helped power the Italian Renaissance. Now, when we think about our world today, the knowledge required to build a dome is not that different from the knowledge of how to build a container, or how to create an accurate machine learning model, or to make an app that works for 1 billion people. There's this long history on Earth of humanity where big things happened without software. Algebra was invented, gunpowder was discovered, empires rose and fell, and that's over. Nothing big will ever happen again without software. It's almost crazy or outlandish to say it, but human progress actually depends on open source. And so the code you write is important. It matters, and it should be preserved. And so at GitHub, we decided we should do something. And to be honest, we might have gotten a little carried away, but let's just see for yourself.
Deep in the Arctic Circle, an archipelago covered in ice, Svalbard, home to the northernmost town in the world, to thousands of polar bears. And it is here you can find the global seed vault. Millions of seeds have been sent here from across the globe for secure long-term storage in cold and dry rock vaults. Just down the road is a decommissioned coal mine that has taken on new life. This is where we will protect open source software for future generations. Deep within the permafrost layer, which can stretch up to 400 meters thick, we will store the world's open source software on silver halide film. The data is encoded on frames with 8.8 million pixels each and designed to last over 1,000 years. In our initial deposit, we archive thousands of the world's most depended on open source projects. The work of hundreds of thousands of developers from around the world. We will return next spring during the perpetual light of the midnight sun. To deposit every active public repository on GitHub for safekeeping in the GitHub Arctic Code Vault.
All right, wow. A little bit crazy, we know. So 2 weeks ago, we traveled to Svalbard to deposit the most popular and most depended upon open source projects into the GitHub Arctic Code Vault, and they're there now. And the beauty of this place is just stunning. It's so remote. There's fewer than 3,000 people that live in Svalbard. But we actually met a number of GitHub users there, using open source software to drive scientific instruments and interpret their data to study the aurora borealis. And I think one of them's here somewhere, Katie, wherever you are. And so it turns out software is everywhere. Even this crazy remote place runs on open source. And so this is our code vault. And to make sure that your code is included, all you need to do is have an active public repo by February 2nd of next year. We will snapshot every repo that's been active in the prior year on that date and store it in Svalbard. Now, this effort was inspired by many people, and especially inspired by generations of people who have made archiving their life's work. Archivists are so important. And so this actually, the GitHub Arctic Code Vault is just one piece of the work we're doing to preserve and protect open source for developers who are here today and for developers yet to come. And the broader effort we call the GitHub Archive Program. And I'm really happy to announce that we've partnered with many of the people and the organizations that inspired us who are dedicated to preserving knowledge to make sure that we store the actual code in different locations, in different storage media around the world. Lots of copies keep stuff safe. And so a few of our partners are actually here today. The Internet Archive, talking about how the Wayback Machine will give you full access to GitHub. The Arctic World Archive, Software Heritage Foundation, Long Now, Stanford, and Microsoft Research, which is developing Project Silica, which is a 10,000-year storage medium. So they'll be here on the main stage at 4:15. Don't miss it.